Hello, in this video we're going to be looking at motor functions of the brain part 2. So let's not waste any of your time. Let's get right to it. Alright, as we talk about the functions of the brain, one of the things we want to talk about right up front is a recognition of a reminder of what sensory and motor refer to. Sensory is the process of getting the information from the receptors, and motor is sending the signal back to the body prospective body part that's going to do the action. Now, and these happen in different areas. The motor is in the front half of the brain. The sensory is in the back half. And the way they're separated is that somewhere along the side of your head there's a central groove, like a succulus. No, that's not the right word either. Let me look at it. I'm mispronouncing it. Sulcus. Yeah, I was going to say I knew what it was, but I wasn't saying it right. Sulcus. I'm sorry. There's a central one, and that separates the front and the back. Everything in front of that is pre-central. Everything behind it is post-central. So the pre-central is where the motor occurs, and the post-central is where the sensory occurs. Alright, and so the motor, again, in the front, pre-central. So anything that has to do with moving something, or movement of your body, or your reaction to something, jumping, whatever, that all starts in the pre-central frontal lobe area. Alright, now this particular screen is going to go hand in hand with the cranial nerves in the next video, because it really showcases what's happening, the different areas, the prefrontal cortex, the somatosensory, the primary motor cortex, the motor association area, all that stuff. Really showcases that. Anyway, the motor stuff up front, the Broca area, the Wernicke area, and the sensory stuff in the back. And again, for those that have an interest in really understanding what the brain is doing and what sections do that, that's a fascinating study. Alright, so our next topic, the Wernicke area. When you talk about, if you want to talk about cognition, to be able to understand language, and it's one thing to speak your native language that you grew up with, you heard it, okay, you had all your conversations with it, everybody that you're familiar with speaks it. Then to learn a second language, man, it's challenging. It's like, because it's in constant battle with what you already know, and that's the Wernicke area. An injury to that, as you can see, okay, an injury to that area would limit you in those. We're talking spoken language. We're talking creating language, speech, that kind of stuff. So that's the Wernicke area. Learned rules of grammar would be in there, and of course that's the thinking part. Then the spoken word part, that's going to be the Broca's area. So that information is to be passed over to the Broca area. So, and you can see that here in the front. So now we've gone from thinking about what we're going to say to actually saying it. And the broca area is responsible for moving of the mouth to generate speech in its entirety. Okay, so we've mentioned this kind of idea that sometimes the injuries of others, which is unfortunate, has led to discovery of how things work and what areas that they cover. And the idea of having lesions on your brain, which would limit the capacity of working. So if you have non-fluent aphasia or lesions on your brain, you got a broca situation, but you have lesions in that area, then that's going to slow the speech. Difficulty choosing words. You can see using words that only approximate the correct word. So that's, you can think of people that have unfortunately had a stroke. That may be the case of what's going on, or birth defects, those kind of things. Okay, so continuing. Now the fluent, non-fluent was the broca. Fluent is the Wernicke. Injuries to this area. Okay, so now the speech normal. The speech is gonna be off and making up words. There's a funny scene in The Magicians where if a person gets infected by a particular parasite, it just jumbles up their words. So they might take what you're gonna say and just mix the words up to where you're just saying gibberish things. And those have to be taken out to be understood. But that's the Wernicke area, fluent aphasia. All right. Lesions in sleep. So not only will it mess up the speech or the process of pronouncing things properly, but also your sleep patterns. Okay, you get a lesions in certain spots. It's going to mix up when you can go to sleep, when you want to go to sleep, how long you sleep, and during that rapid eye movement, that early stage, when you're falling asleep, the body kind of goes limp. Basically, the muscles stop trying to activate. Everything kind of changes. Blood, respiratory rates, the breathing in and out slows down. Everything's going to slow down. But lesions in particular areas can affect all of that. All right, cerebral lateralization. This is just the idea of as we separate them into halves, what are they controlling? So, and this is the left brain, right brain concept that I'm sure that you're familiar with. But left brain people, science, technology, math, those kind of things. Right brained people. The artists, the musicians, the painters, those kind of things as well. Plus a lot of sight and sense and sounds. But that's the idea of right or left brain. On this next screen, you can look at a brain and then list all the things out there that it may or may not, or it may control. So you got your olfactory, your visual memory, your speech, right hand, motor control, finish prize with the left hand. It's just on and on and on. So, but again, not a memorized list that we're going to have to reproduce. But if you do find it fascinating, there's the information. Well, that's our video over functions part 2. The next time we get together, we talk about the cranial nerves. We'll see you then.